So the first tip is knowing the portions that you're working with. The second tip is test, test, test. Adjust what you're eating and move forward. Then the third tip is to balance your plate and then rebalance it. Okay, so if you, as I mentioned, if you're going to try and eat a higher fat diet because you want to eat only 3 times a day without snacks, you want to allow at least 4 hours in between meals because that's what works for you in your lifestyle, then you need to see how much carbohydrate feels good for you. Because often including more carbohydrate might make you feel hungrier sooner, whereas eating less carbohydrate is going to give you this sense of satiety for longer if you're eating more protein and fat, relatively speaking. So if you add more of one thing, so let's say you decide, you know what, I'm training and I think I should be eating more carbohydrates. If you want to add more carbohydrates to your plate and you don't change anything else, that's fine. See what happens. Write it down, take note, see what happens. But if you're finding that you're really hungry after your meals very quickly, you might want to try adding more protein and fat. You also might want to try adding that carbohydrate and reducing some of the fat or reducing some of the protein. Sometimes you can add something. Sometimes you need to add something and rebalance the plate, right? I've seen tons of people who tell me, well, I added back more carbs and all that happened was I gained weight. And frankly, often what happens there is you're adding in more calories without readjusting what was already on your plate. How many of you have had that experience? I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess a lot of you have had this experience where you didn't realize that adding in more carbs to help fuel your exercise might mean that the 3 tablespoons of fat you got used to adding to your meal probably aren't the best idea anymore because now you're shifting your caloric intake. And I'm not really a calories in, calories out kind of person, but at some point they matter, right? In the grand scheme of things, the quantity of food that we're eating does matter. It's an energy input, right? And I want it to be the highest quality food possible, but at the same time, if what you're doing isn't working for you, you have to pay attention to the portions that you're eating and you have to balance and rebalance your plate to figure out, for me, what the right balance is. Now, if you want to try eating more carbs and less fat again, this is not a bad idea, you guys. Just because we did it wrong the first time, just because we approached eating less fat, and I'm not saying no fat. I'm not saying we're not eating fat, we're scared of fat. I'm just saying instead of abundantly pouring that olive oil, we're actually measuring it. We're paying attention to how much is going on the salad. And if you want to eat more carbohydrates because you think, you know what, my digestion might feel better, I'm gonna feel better in my workouts, better at the gym, you really have to pay attention to how much fat you're adding to the meal as well. Those 2 nutrients combined, a lot of fat, a lot of carbohydrate in the same meal, tend to become hyper palatable. We can easily overeat that stuff, right? So French fries. How many of you guys know it's really tough to stop eating French fries? Like, we basically stop when they're gone, right? And we're combining not only carbohydrate with fat, but we're adding salt to that. We're adding an amazing texture to that. Fat and carbohydrate are really not found together in nature. Where we find carbohydrates in nature, obviously in things like vegetables, fruits, grains, they are natural, legumes. They don't carry a ton of fat with them, trace amounts of fat, if any. And so we're creating this hyperpalatable situation. It's actually better to go ahead and increase those carbohydrates if you want to from healthy whole food sources and drop the fat a little bit at the same time. Again, we're not going 0 fat around here. It's just we're being a little bit more mindful of it. So hopefully you guys, that makes sense. If you need more help, there are tons of people online who are coaches for, portion control, for macronutrient balancing. I think it's important to find someone to help you who has an eye to food quality. I think there are tons of people out there who don't really care what you're eating as long as it fits your macros. So, you're given a number of how many grams of protein, carbs, and fat you should be eating in a day. And some people don't care if what you're eating to fill that up includes lots of artificial sweeteners and, non-foods. And I think it's important to find someone who can help you, who understands the value of filling up those macronutrients with tons of micronutrients. Because at the end of the day, it's the vitamins and minerals that really make us healthier lots of different balances of macronutrients can help us lose body fat, be athletically, robust, feel our best. There are lots of different balances that can work for people, but if we're not eating nutrient-dense food at the same time, it's going to catch up to us eventually. The people who are kind of getting away with eating all of these calorie-free syrups and things like that, your body is smarter than that. At some point in time, you're going to feel the effects of that. So that's what I wanted to say about it. You guys know me better than to expect to come on here and get some kind of prescriptive breakdown, right? I'm going to give you the real information, and the real information is that it all depends, but having information about what you're eating now is absolutely the best place to start. Testing and then balancing and rebalancing your plate. So hopefully that gave you guys some good insights. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys next time.